Hey there, welcome to the Textile and Basketry channel. My name is Brittany, and in this video we're going to be weaving a cross-stitch napkin basket. This is a very beginner-friendly basket, so if you've never woven a basket before and you want to dive in, this is a great one to start with. The basket we're weaving is a square basket with an open base pattern as a cross-stitch motif on the outside that adds a little bit of embellishment to the sides of the basket. We're going to be weaving the walls to about 7 inches tall and then finishing off the basket with a sandwiched rim and lashing that to hold it together. This will be a multi-video series, so check the description for all of the videos in this series as they come out. Without further ado, let's get started. The first step in a basket is to cut the stakes. The pattern for this basket, you can use the link in the description below to purchase the corresponding pattern and instruction manual. So to cut stakes, you're going to use a cloth measuring tape and take the piece of reed that you're working with, line the measuring tape with the end of the piece of reed, and then measure out to the necessary length. Cut at that length, and then each stake needs a center mark. So using a pencil, you're going to create a little hash mark at the center of that stake. I don't go all the way across because sometimes I like to erase the marking. You'll need to cut all of the stakes for your basket at this point because we're going to be weaving the base next. So cut all of the lengths and mark them. There is a right and a wrong side to basket reed or rattan reed, so feel the surface. The rougher side of your piece of reed is the wrong side. Put the mark on the rougher side of the reed. That ensures that the rough side of the reed ends up inside your basket, which means that the outside of your basket will look nice and clean. It's still going to have a little bit of hairs on it. It's kind of unavoidable as you start weaving. The friction between the pieces that you work with start to create more hairs on the surface, but it's going to be a lot less than if you worked with the wrong side out. When I'm basket weaving, I like to have just a few tools ready at hand to use when I'm working. We do sell all of these in our shop, Textile Indie, so you can check these out if you're interested. You can also come up with substitutes if you'd rather. My first and probably one of my favorite tools is called a spoke weight. This is a tool that holds your stakes in place as you're building the base. So this acts as a third hand or third arm to hold things in place while you get started. My next favorite tool is my basketry shears, and these are short bladed shears. The short blade and the long handles give you a lot of leverage to cut through thicker reeds, and the rubber handles make it nice and comfortable to work with. Sometimes called floral shears, I call them basketry shears. We also offer these in our shop. Next up is a straight tip packer or a flat tipped awl. This tool works to get into crevices and small places that I can't get my fingers into, or if I'm trying to save my fingers because they're getting sore, you can use this tool. Next up, you'll want a measuring tape. Cloth measuring tape works the best because it can curve around the curvature of the reed. A collection of 2-inch plastic clamps as well as a few 2-inch metal spring clamps. So I use the metal clamps when I'm weaving, and I use the plastic clamps for the rim of the basket. A number 2 pencil or some marking device, and a craft knife like this. I like to have one that has a locking mechanism, so if you push on one end you can fold it. A towel for your work surface. We're going to be working with a lot of water, so having something to soak up the excess water and the drips is really handy, so a big bath towel works well for that. I also have a wash bin or a water tub half full with water. The temperature of the water doesn't matter as much as how comfortable you are working in it. So I like to start out with warm water. By the end of a project, it's usually cooled down anyways. That's my basic basket weaving toolkit. I use these for pretty much all basket weaving projects with some exceptions. I highly suggest finding these and having them in your toolkit. I've included the tools resource page in the description below, so check that out for places to purchase all of these tools. For this basket, I'm using rattan reed, which is a vine that grows in Indonesia in tropical rainforests. You have round reed, which is cylindrical. This is a number 3 round reed. You have flat oval, which is flat on one side and rounded on the other, so kind of beveled on one side. And then you have flat reed, which is flat on both sides. All of these can come in different widths or diameters. There's also seagrass, which is a twisted grass that grows by the ocean and turned into a cordage. This also comes in a variety of different diameters. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to get more content in the basket weaving world, and like this video to let me know that you like basket weaving and you're excited for more content. Throughout the weaving process, I want you to keep your reed damp. If you pick up a new piece of reed to start weaving with, be sure to dunk it in your water bin, dip it in, and then tap it off on your work surface to tap off any excess strips so you don't make a mess. You want all of your pieces damp, not waterlogged. You don't need to soak it for forever or have your basket just dripping wet as you're working with it. You don't need to work in a water bin as you're weaving. It doesn't need to be that wet. Just damp enough that the reed becomes pliable, because rattan is porous. It sucks up the water like a sponge, and it works much better if it's damp. If you feel that your basket is starting to dry out as you're weaving, if you're doing the base or weaving the walls, come in with a spray bottle, squirt it down, let that absorb for about 15 seconds, and then you can go back to weaving. It's not a long soaking process. Now we've made it to the point where we're going to start weaving the base of the basket. In basket weaving, we typically start with the bottom of the basket, especially in square and rectangle grid basketry, and build the walls up from there. So gather up all of your stakes. You should have cut them, marked the centers on the wrong side of the reed, and dunked them in the water. If it's been a while since you dunked them, go ahead and put them in the water again, tap them off on your work surface. Separate your stakes into two piles, so I'll set aside half for later, and now I'm going to work with this half. As we lay these out, you want the marked side, or that wrong side, facing up so that you can see it, and we're going to be working from the inside of the basket to start out with. So this is where that spoke weight comes in handy. If you lay one stake out in the middle of your towel right in front of you, go ahead and lay the spoke weight on top to hold that in place. And now we're going to lay out all of these stakes so that these center marks are right next to each other, and you want about a thumbprint in between each stake. We're going to do some adjustment on that, but for now, if you go in with your thumb, that's about how far apart you want these to be. So lay all of these stakes out parallel with each other. I'm going to go from this side as well, so I'm kind of evenly spreading it across my towel. This just means that my layout will be easier to work with. We have our first set of stakes laid out parallel, like so. Don't worry too much about the spacing here. As long as it's a thumbprint-ish apart, that's good enough to start out with. So I have 4 here and 4 here. This space here is my middle point. So that is going to be the middle of the basket. This point here, this mark, is the middle of the basket going in the opposite direction. So to play with that, or to account for that, when I weave this next set of stakes in, I'm going to weave them perpendicular, or in the other direction, and I'm going to weave a stake on one side of those center marks and weave a stake on the other side of those center marks, like so. So we don't line them up on top or right next to. There's a little bit of space on either side. So I'm going to set these aside for the moment and go over the weaving process. So for this base, we're doing a grid pattern, or an over-under weave. So it's over 1, under 1, over 1, under 1, all the way across. So let's start with an over. We're going to take our new stake, which we'll call the weaver, and go over, and then under this following stake, over the next one, under, over, under, over, under. And then I'm going to pull this through so that this center mark meets the center between these two sets of 4. So I have 4 stakes over here, 4 stakes over here, that center mark right in between them, and then just a little bit away from the center marks on these stakes here. So now I'll weave this next stake, and I'm going to weave them on the other side of these center marks. So for this, because we're doing that over-under pattern, we're going to do the opposite of the previous row. So this was an over. We're going to go under, and then over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. Slide this through, match that center mark to where that previous center mark was, and slide this in so that it's just a small space away from these center marks on our other set of stakes. Now I'll do another stake on this side of the center marks. So my spoke weight is still holding these stakes in place. I'm going to weave away from me and then switch. So here I'm going to go over this one, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, slide through, pull that towards me, and again, about a thumbprint or a little bit less in between is what you're going for, spacing wise. So I'm going to do 2 more on this side, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, and then slide this in. And the way I am deciding how to start is I'm referencing this last row. So this last stake went under this first one, so this next stake is going to go over, and then under, over, under, over, under, over, and under. Slide through, squash it in, about a thumbprint away from that previous stake. Now switch sides, put your spoke weight over here. I have 4 stakes here, so my center mark, then 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put this over here and get my 4 on this side of that center mark. So I'll reference this. This is an over, so I'm going to go under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Line up that center mark there, like so. And then this next one is, this one previously was under, so this one's going to be over. Slide that through, snuggle it in so it's about a thumbprint away. And then our last one here is under, over, all the way across. Slide that in like so. And you can remove your spoke weight at this point. And there is your initial setup for your base. Once your base is woven, you'll want to make sure that your base is nice and square. So I come in with a measuring tape and I just make sure that from these center markings, I'm measuring out an equal distance on either side and in the other direction as well, and get the outer stakes to be a nice square. And then I shift the inner stakes around, moving them as I need to make sure that each of these little squares between are close to the same distance apart. They don't have to be exact. This is kind of an eyeballed craft, so you can just eyeball it, get it close enough or to your satisfaction, and then your base is trued and you're ready to move on to the next steps. The next technique I'm going to show you is called twining, which is a lock stitch technique that we do around the perimeter of the basket to hold the stakes in place so that the base doesn't shift. We're going to be using the round reed. So if you are working out of the Textile Indie kit, grab the bundle of the cylindrical reed. This is round and it's a little bit more brittle than some of the other reeds because it's so small. So go ahead and put this in your water bin and we're going to allow it to soak for about 30 seconds before we start to weave. You're also going to want to grab 2 metal clamps to start out with. We're going to use this to hold the reed in place as we start weaving. After 30 seconds, pull your round reed out of the water bin, tap it off on your work surface to get rid of all those drips, and find the ends. Now, just as a reference, I'm using a piece that when I wrap around this base or the perimeter, I have enough to go around once with some left over. So if you want to cut lengths to that point, you can. If you want to grab just 2 pieces out of your bundle, you can do that as well. So I'm going to line up these 2 ends, and I'm working with 2 separate pieces, these 2 ends, and work away from me. I like to start twining on the side furthest from me because it helps to see what you're doing. Take 1 piece. I'm going to tuck it under this 4th stake in. So if you count in 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to lift this 4th stake up, go under the 4th stake, sit it on top of the 3rd stake. So we're going from left to right like you read. So count 3 in, we'll sit it on the 3rd stake in under the 4th. Now take a clamp and from the left, we're going to clamp that in place, that piece of round reed in place, so that as we tug on it, it doesn't come loose. So kind of situate that, make sure it's secure, and then grab your other piece, your 2nd piece of round reed. We're going to count over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lift number 5 up out of the way, go behind it or under it, and then on top of 4. So if you count in 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's where this 2nd piece is going to land. So grab another clamp, slide it under that stake, and clamp that in place, like so. When you work in twining, you're going to be working with 2 pieces simultaneously. So we have our 2 pieces here, but we don't want to weave in parallel, so where the two pieces would line up next to each other. We need a twist in between each stake. So to do that, take your left hand, open it up on top of the basket, bring both lengths into your left hand, and this is going to be our resting position. Now, if you hold these in your left hand, kind of loosely grip them so they don't get away from you, this will help you to stay oriented. Then come to this last stake that we have these wrapped around. So there's one underneath this stake and there's one on top. Take the one that's on top, grab it with your right hand, bring it under the next stake. So this is our working stake. We're going to go under the following stake, like so. Then come in and tuck this nice and close against that perimeter stake here, and bring both pieces of reed back to your left hand, back to your resting position. Now this piece of reed is on top of our new current working stake. So we've shifted our working stake over one. We started here, now we're on this one. Now this one's on top, so grab this one with your right hand, bring it under the following stake. Tuck it up nice and close, and then return that piece of round reed to your left hand, to your resting hand. Now again, we've shifted over one stake. This is now our working stake. This piece of round reed is on top. We're going to grab that piece, bring it up and under the following stake. Press it into place so it's nice and snug, and then back to your resting hand. Now when you get to a corner right here, keep your reed in your left hand. The piece that's coming underneath, we're going to gently and slowly, and sometimes you might want to get your spray bottle, spray that spot right there to make sure that it's nice and pliable, and gently crimp it or press it against that corner so that it curves around that corner. And now we're going to grab the piece that's coming on top once again. It's going to float over this working stake, and now we're switching working stakes. So we're going around the corner. Again, we're going to allow that to fold around the corner, bring it under, tuck it up against the base, and then return it to our left hand or the resting hand, like so. This was our working stake. We're going to move to the next stake. This piece is on top. We're going to bring it under this following stake, tuck it up so that's nice and close and snug against the perimeter, return it to our left resting hand. Now this one's on top, bring it up and under this following stake, like so, back to our left hand. This one's on top, bring it over and under the following stake. So again, if you follow this piece of reed, it's switching places each stake, so you're getting that twist to happen each time. So following this guy, I'm going to go over this one and then under the following, back to rest, grab this next one, bring it under, tuck it up nice and close, back to rest, bring this one under, like so. And then I'm going to shift this up a bit, back to my resting hand. The one that's on top comes over and under. Now at this corner, what I like to do, crimp this corner and the opposite corner, so kitty corner, lift the piece up and switch or rotate this around so that I'm looking at it from this direction. This orientation makes the twining so much easier. So go ahead and switch this around and then grab your weavers or your round reeds with your left hand back into your resting position. Up at this corner, we're going to take the one that's underneath right here, gently curve it around. Again, come in with your spray bottle. If you feel like it's dense and it's not curving as well, or that's starting to crack a little bit, this guy that comes on top is going to come over, float underneath, and we're going to create a crimp in this one as well, or a little fold in that corner piece. You want these corners to be nice and snug. You can see this one's sitting pretty snug. If you end up with a bubble like this and there's excess reed, when we come to build the sides, you're going to end up with a bubble of material and kind of have a loop that sticks out that can catch on things. So I like to come in and get that nice and snug as I can, without pulling my reed out of squared shape. At this point, I can get rid of these clamps because my twining is going to stay in place. So grab your pieces, bring them on top of your work once again. Spray that down a bit. I'm going to create a crimp in this corner piece and then go over and under this following stake. Make sure you're not pulling in too tight on that corner piece. And now go over and under. And one more. We're coming up to the ends. I'll show you where to end. So we're going to do one more here. So over and then under. And now we've met up with our ends. So what I'll have you do is this first end right here on this third stake. So 1, 2, 3, this third stake here. We're going to follow it, and to the far edge or closest to you side of that stake, we're going to cut like this so that these crisscross like this, and they overlap the stake the full width of the stake. So don't cut it right at the edge, or you're going to have a loose piece that sticks out the bottom. You want to let it overlap the full width and then cut it. And again, for this side, overlap the full width of the stake and then cut it right here so that these ends, again, crisscross over this stake. And now these pieces hang out inside. You don't tuck these, you just let them hang out. When we do the upsetting or lifting up the stakes, that will sandwich them into the wall of the basket and hold them in place. I've made hundreds of baskets and I've never had these little ends come loose or break off or get caught on anything because they get snuggled into the upsetting of the base. So go ahead and let those sit in place. If you really want to hide them, you can cut them a little bit longer and tuck them under somewhere under these stakes. I'll leave that up to you. Just a note, I've never had a problem. Once your twining is done, you can come in and upset all of your stakes, which just means folding them over so that you create a crease along the perimeter so that they start to prepare to stand up. If you're interested in more basket weaving content, check out this video, subscribe and like this video so I know that you are interested in this kind of content. And until the next video in this series, happy weaving. Bye.